The site of the third wife of CHUBAIS, December the 27th, 2021. Let's use the example of the series of CHUBAIS' third wife. Let's trace what the future is being prepared for us without our knowledge. Many wrote about the dominance of drugs and sex in the version of the TV series Vertinsky on the COM platform and the slightly censored version of Channel 1. At the same time, not everyone thinks that platforms like can are part of ecosystems growing before our eyes. And ecosystems, devouring everything sovereign and independent, will try to enclose us all in the metaverse. But let's talk about everything in order. Hollywood horror films arrive with the transformation of a positive character into a zombie. At first, you are disposed to the hero, you start to take him for your own. And suddenly he is bitten by a vampire or some strange evil creature possesses him. Before our very eyes, the hitherto kind friend is going into a rage and attacks everyone, losing its former appearance. About the same drastically the third wife of CHUBAIS twisted the protagonist of the series Vertinsky. And the trouble is that with the current decline in the general level of culture, not everyone knows the real biography of the Russian singer and poet. So, after the series, filmed with the participation of the oligarch Abramovich, many people will have an image of Vertinsky as a drug addict, womanizer and fighter against homophobia and anti-Semitism. Golden calf. Such people will not spend money to popularize the great Russian names. Then why bump into the series' deafening sums, pay for 8,300 costumes and 340 sets? What is the main and unchanging goal of the servants of Taurus at all times? That's right, making a profit. What do you need to add to a show to sell it to the West? This is already known not only by directors, but also by many attentive viewers. To get noticed by leading festivals and by platforms, add gays or transes to the cinema, the struggle for liberal values or the condemnation of repression against Jews. Vertinsky did not fight against homophobia and anti-Semitism. No problem. You can invent and serve effectively. Many have already written that the accompanist homosexual, alleged victim of the Nazi regime in Germany 32 years, was not in real life. His story is written out with blatant implausibility. Heroically pulling the gay pianist out of the clutches of the Gestapo, Vertinsky not only visits him in an underground gay club, but even tells the Soviet ambassador how this gay musician became natural and free when he first ceased to be ashamed of his orientation and put on a woman's dress. Let us recall that all this takes place in the 30s of the last century, when it was not comme il faut to openly express sympathy for homosexuals in the circle of decent people. And even more so to express this to the Soviet ambassador while simultaneously applying for a return to the USSR. The homosexual fantasy passions are crowned by the scene of the dispersal of a same-sex brothel by the Nazis, where the former accompanist of Vertinsky is spectacularly thrown from the balcony in the same woman's dress. On the topic of anti-Semitism, the series invented an episode with a Jew, for which Vertinsky allegedly stood up during his short imprisonment in a Romanian prison. Episodes with good and needlessly offended Jews are intrusively inserted into every Russian large-scale film project. At the same time, the display of negative examples of Jewish behavior in Russian history, the Jewish Armenian group that has seized Russian film production, is shy. In the film Battalion, they not only concealed an attempt by a Jew to hang his wife, the famous female officer Maria Charieva, but managed to present the break with her Jewish husband as the guilt of Charieva herself. In Tara's Fate, where Gogol does not call the Jews any other than in Old Russian Jews, the scriptwriters edited the words of the classic himself beyond recognition, changing the original meaning put in by Gogol himself. There are many such examples of Jewish political correctness from Russian cinema. And how many films and TV series where Jews are shown by rare sages against the background of stupid, reckless and always drinking Russians. In short, the Israeli version of the Negro BLM. The attitude towards Russians, Russian culture, the Russian language and traditional traditions among the current leaders of the film business of the Russian Federation is condescending or openly squeamish. Here, however, we, Russians, ourselves are distinguished by our negligence and ignorance of our roots, with a blind admiration for foreign countries. CHUBAIS' third wife does not hide her disdainful attitude towards Russian men. In an interview with Posner, she stated that Russian men are weak, selfish, hysterical, irresponsible and it is impossible to be women with them. All these words do not refer to Anatoly Borisovich. He is an angelic character. He takes responsibility and looks the truth in the eye and speaks it. End of quote. Genocide of the Russian people in the 20th century. After all, most of the representatives of our stronger sex perished in the blood event of the Civil War and in the dispossession and Czechoslovakia that followed. At that time, it was precisely from Russian men that the ancestors of today's CHUBAIS expropriated factories, plants, lands, and, one might say, the whole country, having deprived us of Russian power in 1917. That the majority of Russians, brought up in the spirit of a blind internationalist, did not realize to this day. And of course, the main reason for some predominance of strong mothers and weak-willed popes in Russian families was the war with the patriarchy, which reigned in Russia for centuries. Until 1917, the father was recognized as the head of the family. And only since Lenin's times did the fathers become a symbol of legal powerlessness, the best way to block any self-organization and resistance among the people. And it is also a fight against God, the Father. After all, according to the Orthodox family way of life, Demostroa is in the place of Christ in the family. But the laws are still on the side of women, hence the maternal capital, absurd for the consciousness of our ancestors, when, according to the same Demostroa, the husband was the manager of the family treasury from time immemorial. Through emancipation, feminism, child-free and LGBT propaganda, the war against the male principle is now continued by the servants of Taurus. Capitalists benefit from encouraging a woman to plow at work. Instead of raising children, live for yourself. That is, to become the driving force behind the endless consumption market. It is not just that in American blockbusters, against the background of weak, incapable of action movie heroes, there are more and more strong and decisive movie heroines. And the series Vertinsky does not lag behind the trend. Each episode is full of images of strong independent women. Even the fearless white guy General Slashchev, who received 9 battle wounds, was replaced by CHUBAIS' third wife with a fictional female character. A careful approach to our history is not typical of the Vertinsky TV series. He continues the trend emerging in the cinema of the Russian Federation to move away from an honest reflection of historical realities, which was more or less in the cinema of the USSR. Of course, there is a lack of agreement or an outright lie in the films about Alexander Nevsky or Minin and Pozarsky. But all the same, historical consultants did not allow a complete gag to be filmed. Forced to depict the class struggle in the plot, Soviet scriptwriters and directors nevertheless tried to keep the connection to the era. Now everything is according to the Hollywood principle: there is money, everything is possible. And so, an inorganic, but necessary content for the director and producer himself is crammed into a really living historical hero. Especially bright, and there are a lot of bohemian orgies, drunkenness and cocaine in Vertinsky. Oh, the director knows a lot about this. CHUBAIS' third wife herself learned in her youth all the circles of the hell of bohemian life. There is a clip of her rock band Dumb, where she dances wriggles with grapes in her hair at stations and in subway cars under the bewildered glances of the common people around them. To the Russophobic text of the song In Yellow. The son of the legendary Sergei Bondarchuk was the same, drowned in rock and drugs from his youth. Fedor, who became famous for the destruction of the country's oldest film studio, Limfilm, also has a Hollywood approach to historical cinema. As a result, the Ninth Company quarreled the director with the Afghan warriors, and Stalingrad with the veterans of the Great Patriotic War. As noted by the famous blogger Goblin Puchov, the 5 heroes of Bondarchuk Jr. single quote as film Stalingrad are not defending their homeland, but cattle with which all 5 of them cohabit. At one time, blogger Bazunov, a parasite on bad cinema, said about journalist Pilovarev, who distorted the motive of Zoe Kosmodymanskaya's feat: "Why don't they understand that you can die for your homeland?" Well, journalists, cut off from Russian soil, believe that someone has a sincere love for their homeland. And Western directors, who prefer Russia only within the Moscow Ring Road, can embody the image of a patriot in their films? How to show on the screen what you yourself do not have in your soul? The answer is obvious: no way. Since 1922, Alexander Nikolaevich has repeatedly asked permission to return to his homeland. Do we see this main site of Vertinsky in the series? No. CHUBAIS' third wife returns the protagonist to the USSR in an unpredictable and unmotivated manner. And he shows us such a cruel scoop that to enhance the effect of Stalin's atrocities he invents another character, close friend, Konstantin Ageev, sent to a concentration camp on a denunciation. This is the third ingredient for success at Western festivals and international platforms, denouncing a totalitarian regime that violates human rights. Let us add to this that showing Russia as a hopeless nightmare, as a rampant dictatorship, as an evil empire, guarantees a prize at Western festivals. At the same time, the series does not even attempt to comprehend why, despite all the non-Soviet repertoire of Vertinsky, the bloody Stalin did not repress him, but provided the singer with the best conditions for living in the capital, allowed him to tour the entire USSR with concerts, gave the opportunity to act in films, and even presented the main award of the country, the Stalin Prize. Let it be of the third degree. Oh my motherland, in my simple greatcoat, in pood boots, loving his sons, you climbed through storms and blizzards, saving the world that didn't believe in you, saving the world who did not believe in you. This could be written only by a wandering life of a vagabond and an artist, and having seen dozens of countries. Vertinsky knew firsthand the arrogance with which foreign gentlemen treated his barbaric homeland. And they still do. Moreover, heading the film business in the Russian Federation and determining its development. It is clear from the diaries and letters of Alexander Nikolaevich Vertinsky that he gradually became disillusioned with the Soviet system. He wrote that the Russian man had become a Havazeknik. What do people who represent the party understand in art? I am afraid that nothing or very little. They have built up Moscow with tasteless architectural houses. They have emasculated all their poets by taking away from poetry the most important thing, freedom. He wrote in their letters to loved ones. At the same time, Vertinsky never stopped loving Russia itself. He never ceased to be orthodox, going from time to time to rare churches that were not closed under the communists. Perhaps in the USSR, he realized what we lost as a people after 1917. However, in the series Vertinsky, we will not see the singer's nostalgia for Russia, or the affection he carried through his whole life to the Russian church. The only memorable and vivid scene in the church is the funeral service for the coffins in the middle of the Temple of the Junkers. For CHUBAIS' third wife, the traditional Orthodox Church on Sundays is apparently not a habit. Or maybe again aiming at the realization of the series to the West? There, as you know, the positive image of Christianity, to put it mildly, is not supported. The ban in the American film industry of religious propaganda was established at the beginning of the last century. But the process of globalization is developing. And now the theme of love for the motherland is gradually beginning to be ousted from the cinema. And in the European Parliament, voices are beginning to sound seriously about the recognition of patriotism as politically incorrect and even extremist manifestation. In Russia, according to this principle, healthy Russian imperial nationalism is equated with chauvinism. You love your land, your country, your people equals you offend foreigners and foreigners with this. The new digital world without borders calls. You are not a tree. Live where you feel comfortable. Obligations to ancestors, to the country, love to fatherly coffins are devalued. Of course, it is easier to manipulate a tumbleweed man without roots, land, country, family, gender, God. Ecosystems like Yandex and Zba before our eyes are predatory, devouring the entire business of food, deliveries, taxes, banks, travel agencies, real estate. At the same time, they buy up everything related to virtual entertainment, platforms with movies, games and TV shows. Ecosystems lure millions of customers like flies to sweet tooth through discounts, bonuses, cashbacks and loyalty programs. They lure at first for low prices, and when they get hooked, they will tear three skins, but it will be more difficult to get out. When you have all the accounts, all your activities are tied, then, as they say, either bread or a cross. Weeds ecosystems, having digitized their clients through various kinds of codes, plan to conclude us all in the metaverse, a virtual global digital space of the anti-homeland. For your comfort, Anti-Rodna suggests purchasing everything disposable or for rent. Car for rent, houses for rent, furniture for rent, avatar for rent, pets for rent, disposable friends, temporary husbands, wives, children, services of sperm donors, surrogate mothers, IVF and even the right to suicide with the subsequent donation of your organ. No personality, overwhelming feelings like responsibility and obligation. Nothing of yours, your own, inalienable, blood, durable, real. Global virtual airport train station. After digitization, humanity will be stimulated with a double force to the mood for nomadism. This means that the leadership of the metaverse will organically include representatives of those peoples who have been trained for centuries to live without their land, not to take deep roots anywhere, in everything to look, first of all, for selfish interest and the like. It is no coincidence that, among others, the leading was the nation that was deprived of its land 2,000 years ago as a punishment for the murder of a universal scale. Oh, how many experts in this ancient people, to our deep regret, ridicule not their traditions, destroy not their own faith, undermine not their roots, to desecrate not their own land, to distort not their historical heroes. So Vertinsky, filmed by their financial injections, as a result, has only a very conditional relation to a real Russian singer and composer. One of Vertinsky's daughters said so. This series is not about my father. Throughout all 8 episodes, the recording of Vertinsky's voice never sounds. It seems that the original singing of Alexander Nikolaevich would have burst through with its frantic plausibility all the lies cobbled together by the series. After all, his songs reflected his soul. And the soul of the singer, with all the passions, irony and even sarcasm, was looking not for selfish interest, but for a high ideal. Longing for the ideal was out of sight of CHUBAIS' third wife. But this ideal has not gone anywhere. He who carries it in his heart and does not betray, will not allow himself to be made feeding for ecosystems with their short-lived metaverse. Therefore, we will conclude with the finale of the songs of Alexander Nikolaevich, in which one of his innermost desires is, as if through his own daughters, he wished this to all of us: a lot of Russian sun and light will be in the life of my daughters. And what is most important is that the motherland will be with them.